Good.
So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the workshop for the first China seminar, which is China's development strategy. So, let me introduce the first speaker, Fanqi, and her research topic for presentation is China a developmental state? A case study of China's new energy import industry. So now let's get started with the
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, everyone. This topic is whether China can be experienced as a developmental state and how it's transitioning towards a mission-oriented policy. I will use China's new energy resource to discuss. The outline of the presentation is that first I will introduce the background and how we should understand traditional industrial policy framework, and then I will introduce the recent paradigm shift from the development-oriented to mission-oriented policy framework developed by OECD countries, and then I will introduce how China's developmental state nature can help China benefit to transition to this innovation policy framework, and then I will compare China's developmental state model and the mission-oriented policy framework in China's auto industry, and then I will conclude this discussion. So first, this continuous debate on industrial policy, especially on its rationale. Especially on the rationale of industrial policy, whether industrial policy should be market fixing or market creation. But now we are undergoing the phase of partnerships, and the recent debate is whether the industrial policy rationale should include more goals such as combating the climate change.
All right, here it comes. So can you start again because quite some late comments.
So welcome again for this session. The topic today is China still considered as the developmental state, and is China transitioning to the new innovation policy framework? using the China's new electric vehicle industry as a place to discuss this topic. And first, the outline for this presentation is that first I will introduce the background of the industrial policy debate. Then I will introduce a recent paradigm shift developed by OECD from development-oriented to mission-oriented policy framework. And then I will discuss the developmental state nature of China's institution and how that's benefit China to meet the inclusion of mission-oriented policy. And then I will compare the DS model and mission-oriented model in China's automotive industry. And then I will conclude this discussion. So first, there's a continuous debate on industrial policy, especially about the rationale of industrial policy. But now the common agreement of industrial policy is market fixing rather than market creation. But now we are facing the new crisis, which is the climate change. So there should be broadened rationale of industrial policy conflicts, such as the climate change and the green transition. And another thing is we are entering the new phase of development, which is the fourth industrial revolution. And so there are a lot of information technology and AI incorporated into the industrial development and production. And it's like the industrial development moving from the linear supply chain to the interconnected network. So the vertical or only horizontal industrial policy might not meet the demand of the development of local ecosystem. So that new industrial policy framework should be introduced to this context. So now I'm introducing the OECD's industrial policy framework, which is the mission-oriented policy. So it means that there's a goal set. First, they are broad and inspirational, and especially to tackle the social challenges. And it first rooted in the 20th century, such as academic and the various national defense initiatives. And this kind of policy set the rationale by its mission, and especially the grand challenges. And also it needs more collaboration between sectors rather than specific sectors. And it supported by economist Mariana Mazzucato. She defined the mission should be bold and inspirational with clear direction and foster collaboration. And it finally promoted inclusion of social division. And this is the OECD framework. And first, we set the mission first. It's the strategic orientation, and then the policy mix needs the coordination, both horizontal and vertical. And then the policy implementation demands policy mix, and also we need the targets which can be measured. And then finally, we need policy evaluation that we see how far we move from the target. We move to the target and then adjust the policy to move to the mission. So how China's developmental state legacy benefits the transition to this kind of framework. First, China has a government structure. Like China always has the leadership, mission-led leadership. CPC is strategic mission leadership, and it guides the development of the nation. And so China recently adapted from the economic growth mission to the brain transition, the brain transformation. The next feature is multi-linear government coordination, and both central and local government or horizontally local government coordinate closely to implement those targets and missions. And at local level, local governments can engage closely to the businesses and using the close state business alliances to meet the targets. And then finally, China has a system of assessing and evaluation periodically to see how far we move towards the target situation, and then adjust the mission, adjust the policy according to the development process. This is the framework of this kind of policy system of China, and which is mirrors OECD's policy framework. So I found them really similar. So next, I will compare the development states model and the mission-oriented model in China's automotive industry. So before in the development of automotive industry is state-centered, and the mission or the targets are undertaken by the national champions, like state enterprises, and they are mostly focusing on vertical policies such as direct support, subsidies, tariffs, and tax reduction. And there are direct orders from the states to the enterprise to conduct the mission of production. And back then, the first priority is technological catching up. So China fostered or collaborated with the global economy, such as Volkswagen, Toyota, formed a strong venture with their own enterprise to catching up. And so now, as China moving to the frontier of automotive production, the role of China's government, of the state has changed. So the first is the mission has been broadened from the economic growth of that sector to the mission such as reducing carbon emission and reducing the oil dependency, as well as reaching the frontier of driving technology. So for the social, the social demands is to provide affordable transportation. So you can see that China has broadened the mission and incorporated more demands from the social, from the strategic consideration, as well as technology. And so for the role of the state, national states, you can see that the state changing from direct control to enabling environment. Um,
My question is, how do you assess the Chinese government's role in the development of new electrical vehicles? Actually, I know that the Chinese state may have played an important role in the development of the traditional vehicles, but how do you assess the government's role in the new electrical vehicle like Xiaopeng, automobiles like Yadi? How they receive the subsidy from the government?
but basically, Chinese government should their own enterprise and private enterprise equally.
Okay.
And
When automatically or? Again, whatever. Forward. Oh, so it goes to sleep.
continue. Recently, the national states moved from direct control to enabling government, and the role of national states support the industry and mostly infrastructure development, and providing the business environment for the competition within this industry. And then another change is you can see there's a reduced SOE dominance in this sector, this industry, and now private enterprise and SOEs are treated equally, both on policy level and business environment level. And there's an emphasis on the unified national markets, which means there's a reduce of local state competition, local market competition. They allow for more development or growth, efficient growth within this industry. And another change is since there are less importance or dominance of state-owned enterprise, you can see there's a diminishing state business alliances within this sector. So mostly Chinese government support this industry through spare support to those enterprises. And so now the emphasis is mostly on the development of the innovation core strategy for technology. So at local government level, you can see that the local states show their flexibility in implementing those industrial policies. So you can see that different local states leveraging their strengths, their existing strengths and adapting those industrial policies according to their local conditions. So you can see that Anhui provinces, they recently attract both vegan and their factory into their provinces, and Shanghai, which is 100% foreign enterprise into Shanghai to compete with the state-owned enterprise. So you can see that basically the industry are shaped by both the top-down and the bottom-up experimentation. And another recent change that is more participators, more actors are included into implementation, like new auto companies, new Li Auto and X1. They all have background. The CEOs all have background in internet industry, and then more information technology firms, they enter into the competition. Yes. So you can see they are not restricted to this competition. They are adding their strengths and their technology to the competition. And recently, you can see there are more public engagement in this industry, such as EV 100. There are more and more public engagement and public information exchange on this kind of forum, and that could be information channel both for government and so you can see the efforts of the public engagement, both from the government and from firms. So it's like a similar framework that is supportable coordination between national government and local government and horizontal different actors. Both collaboration and competition at this industrial level. And so the final discussion is how can is China moving towards moving away from development states? The first question can be the policy of institutionalization is who should decide the mission and how the bottom up decision or bottom up opinions can be included into the mission design and mission discussion. And next issue is China is to rely on the centralized hierarchy structure, which can exclude more bottom-up policy institutions, or they will exclude more policy innovation from those institutions. So that's the difference from the Western OECD model.
For your presentation, Ms. with the Q&A about 10 minutes. So, any questions or comments for Fanqi's presentation?
Is the term development state Asian, is it also used in Chinese literature?
Yes, China has first developed in East Asian countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, and then some scholars develop China as local development states, as local entrepreneurial states.
So this theoretical concept is also used in the Chinese literature.
Chinese literature.
Chinese literature. So Chinese scientific discussion, the notion of development state is used.
I have one question. As you mentioned that there are some similar examples in the East Asian models, such as Japan or South Korea. Do you think is there any similarities between China's case and the other East Asian models regarding developmental state?
Because they have similar government structure, like the horizontal. But China is much more larger territory compared to this country, so they need more coordination with what we call. I would say that most evident.
Thank you very much. Yeah, questions from the audience. Yeah, on your chat box. I see the chat.
Two questions.
Yeah.
So I just answered the second one. Zhenzhen just asked, is there any difference between this model? So I'll just answer this one. My answer is we still don't know yet, because the industry is undergoing the change day by day, so it's undergoing the fierce competition right now. So in the future, we'll see that there are going to be the best firm survive. Should they?
That was the second part of the question. Should they also fight?
The natural competition, so there's no should or shouldn't.
Any other question?
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question that the South Korean industry policy, they implemented the preferential policies, so they favor one industry or only a few companies over other industries. But in China, you mentioned that the government now should the state-owned enterprise and private businesses equally. So would you see this is a difference between industry policy in China and in South Korea, that we use different kind of industry policy? In China, we don't discriminate between businesses, but in South Korea, they eliminate competition. In China, we both have competition. So how would you comment on these differences?
So I wouldn't say that China. It depends on different stages, as I discussed that in this during the beginning of the development of auto industry, China also support national champions, state-owned enterprise, large state-owned enterprise, and discriminate the private ones. So that's kind of similar to those East Asian countries. But now China's automotive industry is developing to the frontier, so we need competition to develop the frontier technologies. So now it's treated. So I would say it depends on different stage of development industry.
Before proceeding, problem is with the projector. I called IIPPE, they will do it. So we can reopen the projector, but they will only take 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes we have to turn it off. Yeah, turn it on again. Is decent. If there is a presenter with no presentation, I guess that would.
No, they all have presentation. So you just need to stop.
I will sit here and every 10 minutes I will go. Sorry about it.
Tomás, Costa, his presentation is FDI in China during CCP's era from 2000. So now let's get started with the speaker presentation.
Cannot hear. Is it the home screen? This one, yes. Okay. No, I can. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for everyone to attend this very first panel on early morning on the first day of the panels. My name is Tomás. I am a researcher. I'm based in Germany. And this is like a first presentation of this book that I actually been working on the last 3 years at least. I also have presented some part of this book at the last IIPPE conferences. And this is more focused on, I have been working in FDI, especially in China, and discussing actually the regulation policy of Chinese for inward FDI. Debating how this is related to development and how did China manage to extract benefits from direct investments, regulating that actually, so the whole of the state on foreign direct investments. And this work is focused on the more recent debate about geopolitics and how this is this geopolitics context is affecting FDI in China. Next, please. Thank you very much. So what we have on the economic context is that China has rise at economic power and a political power. So we have this conflict between the hegemon, which is the US, basically, and the allies of the West against China, trying to kick away the leader. Because China is rising as a very powerful economy, and there's this rivalry between US and China with economic sanctions to trade and investment restrictions, and more recently this debate about chips and security, chips war and security sharing. Next, please. So China is the biggest player on exporting, and then main destiny, as we can see, it's a bit difficult actually to see, but basically China is the big exporter in the world, and then the main destiny of the exporting is the US, so they are very connected in some ways, and the rise of China and what has shaken the power structure and the declining hegemony of the US, and what is important to say is that China has managed to build their own multinational corporation with certain degree of autonomy and their own technology. Okay.
So sorry about that. All right, the problem solved.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And the US, the European Union has led to movement of de-investing and de-risking, at least in the political aspects. They have supposed these ideas, and they claim for the multinational companies to move away from China as a way to de-risking, because China became a threat to the West in some way. But the thing is, how did the multinational corporations investments in China has changed in this new scenario? So this is what I'm trying to bring some light on. Please. Thank you. So the presentation is divided in literature review, foreign direct investment in China, their methodology, and some of the preliminary conclusions, which I expect the audience to debate. So, as I said, I have been working on that for the last years. So there are 2 papers that I have published on the regulation policy for foreign direct investment in China and how this how the government and how the state policy has managed to get benefit of it, and have this work from fathers, our colleagues that have discussed specifically on the agriculture sector and has discussing how actually from the investments has not exactly bring benefits to the sector, but how the state has an important role in that. And also the literature of geopolitics in the US-China rivalry. We have some debate on specifically on chips war and how, oh shit, sorry, next one. So this is the literature that I'm using. Well, the FDI is well known because of actually this. The important thing here is that multinational corporations are looking to control the supply chains and extract benefits from it and control strategic resources. Next one. But they are mainly looking for profit. And these are some kind of news that tell us that some companies are moving away from China and they don't want to invest more in China. Next one. But this is the interesting data that's a kind of polemic because we have the same about the same thing. We have some different data, all from the government, but they have different methodologies. This is the point. Here's the foreign direct investment in China during the period, and this is also foreign direct investment in China, but they use different methodology. Next one. About the methodology that show different aspects of that, and they are used in different occasions, is that directional flow and asset liability aspect. Because one is the balance of payments. They have different methodology, which according to on the BPM6 method, within company loans, it's not counted as outflow of FDI, but as a incurrence of liabilities. According to Azevedo, this outflow, this type of flow could undergo a way of offshoring funding transferred to headquarters and or unrelated companies onshore. What led us to the hypothesis that the decrease of FDI in the asset liability method might be related to the reverse investment, de-investment, or the third one, that's my hypothesis, an increase in transfer of funding from Chinese affiliates to the headquarters or other affiliates abroad. Next one. So I bring in other data to complement this hypothesis, and we can see it's very tiny. Okay, but the thing is that the more investments in manufacturing. Oh, great. Okay, so the idea is that the more investment in scientific sector and technology, and also in manufacturing. So the hypothesis that I bring other years is that there are different patterns of investments, not the investment. And the graph on down is the investments here from the US and Germany. They are actually not have changed that much, and also the US have invested more. But what is interesting is that the profits of industrial enterprises, foreign fundings have risen until 2021, but since then have dropped down. But some data until July have shown that the profits of those companies are being recovered. And then what's interesting, at the different sectors, electronic equipments, automobiles, chemicals, and petroleum gas are the most profitable. So the conclusions I'm jumping very forward, but we can make the debate. The multinational corporations not moving away from China, neither the risking nor the coupling. The profits have fallen since COVID-19 pandemic, but have shown signs of recovery. The flow of FDI has been more diversified, and the share of investments in the real estate sector has declined, which is important. And while investments from the US and Germany have been stable in the last year, showing that the government offensive against China has not had severe consequences for the multinational corporations' behavior, except for the chip sectors, which is exception. And the BPM6 method might be showing that movement of funding transfer from China affiliates to the headquarters as a consequence of decline of profits. So this is my main hypothesis. That's all.
Q&A. So any questions or comments about this presentation?
What was your last 2 sentences?
Okay.
It will be right back.
Okay. The last 2 sentences that the investments from the US and Germany are stable, and even the US is rising. But my main hypothesis is that the BPM6 method of showing FDI data in China actually is hiding something that is the movement of funding transfer from China affiliates, so the base of multinational corporations that are based in China, to the headquarters as consequence of the decline of profit height during this period. Because when maybe you could not pay attention because it was too fast, but that's the data that shows that for FDI anywhere in China, there are different results because of different methods. And the second one, which is the BPM6, show a huge decline of investments in China, but might be hidden this aspect of transfers of on that transaction actually from Chinese affiliates to the headquarters. But it's very polemic, I know.
So very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have also details of the kinds of FDIs like the US and Germany that they are making in China? What kind of investments they have?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. But I don't. But this is something that I would look for to check it, because last year I have worked a bit more on that and I have presented. But what I'm showing is that because of China, as a economic structure has changed, and the salaries have gone rising, the well-being have risen, and they have better quality of life. The price of labor force has risen. So activities intensive in labor force have changed. So some companies that used to invest in China in labor intensive activities have moved into other countries in Southeast Asia. And they are investing more in technological sectors and more intensive in technology than labor activities.
Okay, we've got a question from Michael.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
This question, does this show a contradiction for US international corporation capital with support sanctions and breaking China demand by the government, but they want to maintain sales for sure. That's exactly my point. There's this contradiction between what US and then Germany government are claiming for the multinational corporations, but what's happened is that multinational corporations doesn't really care about political or ideological aspects. They want to make profit. So that's why they're not moving away from China, because they are making a lot of profit there. So yeah, that's it.
Is there any possibility to separate out political as opposed to economic factors or forces driving the performance of FDI growth? Say the US government has been very aggressive to try to impose these sort of restrictions. But then say in the case of Germany, this might be less aggressive. But just because of the conflict in Ukraine, that German industry has been relocated outwards anyway. China seems to be a good destination in that sense. Yeah. So and then you can say Japanese companies are leaving. They are leaving not because of this situation, but rather because of the competition that the Japanese industries have. That competition cities, particularly auto industry, Chinese farming. So by international comparison, comparing MNCs from different countries, it might be possible to separate out
Yeah. Very good. I'm not sure how I would do that, because yeah, on some way I would say that they have different strategies. for sure, Germany on some way is following the political position of the US, because US have some influence in Europe, a lot of influence, especially after the Ukraine war. But the main point is I'm not sure. Maybe this is but another question that we should make. You know how, because on my research I cannot check. The point is that I cannot see a movement that followed the political outlet, you know, except for the chips sector. You know, that the US has managed to move away on some way or impose some sanctions, but also China is striking back on that. But this is another issue. But except for that sector, the companies are not following the political position of the country. So in some way, this is a international political theory debate on how multinational corporations are under, or I don't know, under control or under guide of the state, and how it's can be split at this position. On what we have seen until now, it's like the governments have a very different position that doesn't reflect on economic aspects of multinational corporations. I don't know if I managed to answer, but this is a big issue. Yeah, please.
Yeah, just a short response to that because I work for Chamber of Commerce and I came across some of that information that you were asking about. Saying this is central service of the European Chamber of Commerce, China, German Chamber of Commerce in China. So, in regards to your question, I think the interesting thing that this was the surveys that sort of demonstrated is that the main concern of German businesses in China, according to this survey, that's 2 months ago, is increasing competition from Chinese entities. It's not, doesn't matter state owned or privately owned, it's just Chinese industries that always become much more competitive. That's the major pressure for German businesses. But at the same time, they say they're prepared to stay in the market because it's taking lots of profits. China's the future. They can't leave China. But if you compare this survey with the survey of the European Chamber of Commerce in China, it's talking about exactly the same thing, but with a different twist. So they're saying, well, some things that we're not certain about in terms of geopolitical factors, we're not sure about the policies of our own governments towards China. Right? 1 minute we want to sort of like support Taiwan or whatever, and then the other minute we want to couple, and what are we supposed to do? So, and this can be compared in contrast with what they say about Chinese policies. They say China has a very clear policy of welcoming FDI. So they want this contradiction that you mentioned to resolve ASAP as businesses. So that's quite interesting. So it seems that the businesses that are quitting under pressure of competition, rather than being told by government. Because if they are business of scale, they're investing in technology and stuff like that, they want to stay in China. But it's just that they've been hampered by politics inside their own countries. That's according to this business sentiment survey. It's like it's not hard, tough statistical stuff. It does give you an indication. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, please.
You mentioned that the profit rates of the foreign companies went down for some years. Statistics with what profit rates. I know it's not so simple because this is actually terms of not relative. Or
yeah, one side is the growth pace, and the other side is the amount.
Yeah, but what are the absolute, because the absolute, the relative profit rates are the important things for capital.
Yeah.
What are the,
I don't know.
and what in relation to their global profit rates?
No, I actually this data I extracted from the National Bureau of Statistics of China, and I don't have it like this micro data would be like by sectors or. But it would be interesting to have it, but I don't, to because this is very micro, and there's a huge, the average between sectors was different.
But this is the crucial thing for capital.
Yeah,
Do they have more than average?
yeah,
If they would not have more than average, maybe they would go out. So
yeah. But this might not happen. That's what I'm trying to show actually, because I don't have this data. This is what might be crucial, but the companies have it. And what's happened is that they are not moving. So profit aid might be interesting for them to steal that, to stay that one. So even though it's have fallen under those years of the pandemic, but this is the first semester of this year at Horizon again, and it's also just very complicated because it's some companies have more mid-long term perspective, and they have bet that the recovery of the profit aid. But yeah, it's also really interesting maybe to find this data.
There is a lot of literature which say they have very high profit rates above average. Some sectors.
Yeah, that might be true for sure.
Okay, so
I don't have it.
Just a quick comment, because your presentation and Fanqi's presentation, they just put them together. You see that actually Chinese state is trying to promote, you can call it a different model of industrial development. So according to the US officials, this is counterproductive to the US capital because it's creating problems, overproduction, it's driving down the cost of all the prices. So it is going to be a disaster for the whole world, and especially for the capital, because the profits will go down. But then if we look at Tomás' presentation, actually the capital sector, one part of it, even from the US and Germany, they actually don't agree with the government.
Yeah.
Basically, that's
Yeah.
yeah. So the Chinese state government, what they are doing in upgrading, in trying to renovate to another level of development, actually can be helpful to certain kind of capital. So that actually adds the complications to the situation. So I think just very good. Very good.
Thank you.
It's just very quick one. The German Chamber of Commerce, so this is sentiment survey that I mentioned. They actually make a point that China's making ready-made templates of which German industries can use. Be of course, but they're confident that China's got all this stuff done for us. For next number of years, but we're confident as German businesses they will develop things quicker and faster and cheaper at that basis. We want to decouple from China, that opportunity is gone for us. So if you want to put it in Marxist terms of China using the necessary labor time for an entire world, but the main obstacle is political and ideological.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for the comments.
So every 2 minutes I have to get you open the rules. Don't feel the pressure. I like you don't have that. I like to be
So I am the first speaker for this workshop. Yeah. So I'm the first speaker. My name is Zhenzhen, and My research topic for today's workshop is what kind of industrial policy does China need to develop for the industries for an uncertain future? A case study of the automotive industry. For today's presentation, there are three parts to be discussed, which are shown in the outline. I will first introduce the overview of the automotive industry in China, and then discuss the upgrading industrial policies of auto in China from several theoretical perspectives. Finally, the auto industry in China, which is treated as one of the pillar industries, will be discussed under the context of transformation and the development in the future. The Chinese manufacturers of passenger vehicles can be categorized into two different types, which includes indigenous brand manufacturers such as BYD, Geely, and Chery, and joint ventures between domestic manufacturers and foreign manufacturers such as SAIC with Honda and Dongfeng with Honda. In figure 1, I introduced the market structure of the Chinese automobile industry. So Chinese firms that are at least partially state-owned are in bold rectangles. Private Chinese firms are in bold dashed rectangles. International car companies are in rounded rectangles. Lines connecting firms indicate joint ventures between firms. The large boxes around state-owned firms and international car companies with which they form joint ventures indicate the largest state-owned automobile groups in China. According to Chinese automobile policy, a Chinese automobile company can form joint ventures with multiple foreign car manufacturers. For example, as seen in figure 1, SAIC has cooperated with General Motors and Volkswagen. Dongfeng Motors partners with Nissan, Honda, Kia, and PSA. On the other hand, under Chinese policy, a foreign car manufacturer is only allowed to form joint ventures with up to 2 Chinese automobile companies. For example, Honda partners with both Dongfeng Group and Guangzhou Auto. Toyota, another Japanese automobile firm, cooperates with both First Auto Work and Guangzhou Auto. In addition to large state-owned outgroups, private car makers in China also partner with the foreign car makers. Huacheng Auto cooperates with BMW, etc. So joint ventures with international car companies account for 2/3 of the passenger vehicle market, with the rest mostly taken up by indigenous brands. And figure 2 presents the location of the automobile firms listed in figure 1. Most of the automobile firms are located along the east of the continent. 2 of the China Automobile Group 4 are located in the east, with the First Auto Work in the northeast and SAIC in the southeast. For the other 2, Dongfeng Group is in the middle east of the country, while Chang'an Automobile Group in central China. 2 large indigenous firms, Geely and Chery, are located in the southeast part of the China. So in terms of industrial policy for the auto industry in China, I made a timeline of the policy framework for developing auto, including new energy vehicles in China. So firstly, China has followed the developmental state models of Japan and South Korea, designating the automotive sector as a pillar industry in its 5-year plan from 1986 to 1990. The government's 1989 policy statement stressed the need for clear industrial strategies, which included developing key sectors like transportation, energy, and automobile manufacturing. In 1994, China's first market-driven industrial policy was issued, focusing on revitalizing industries like machinery, petrochemicals, and automobiles. Over the years, China introduced a range of policies to guide the development of these sectors. key initiatives include automotive industry policy and guidelines for high-tech industrialization. In 1995, the government issued the interim provisions on guiding the direction of foreign investment and the catalog of industries for guiding foreign investment, 1995 edition. The documents classified industries into 3 categories: encouraged, restricted, and prohibited. In 2002, the Chinese government further refined and strengthened its industrial development guidelines, implementing structural adjustment policies for key industries and issuing automotive industry developmental policy. The global financial crisis in 2008 led China to roll out policies focused on maintaining growth, expanding domestic demand, and adjusting industrial structures. This included controlling new production capacities, accelerating the elimination of outdated capacities, and encouraging innovation. So in 2010, China issued a decision on accelerating the cultivation of strategic emerging industries, identifying sectors such as new energy vehicles as crucial for future development. By 2015, the government launched the Made in China 2025, aimed at fostering innovation in sectors such as energy saving and new energy vehicles. So figure 3 presents the evolution of the new energy vehicle policies, which are issued by China's central government from 1991 to 2019. And figure 4 presents the evolution of the new energy vehicle pilot in China, but this section of research is still in progress, which is not a key point to be discussed in today's presentation. So based on the context above, I will examine the evolution of China's automotive industrial policy from a political economy perspective. On one hand, the relationship between the government and the market, referred to as the marketization, plays a crucial role in the development of China's auto industry. The development of Chinese automotive industrial policy has occurred in tandem with the country's market-oriented reforms, global economic integration, and rapid growth. The evolution of this policy has followed 2 key paths. First, adjusting the relationship between the government and the market during the reform process, which has significantly influenced the direction of industrial policy and the choice of policy tools. And second, addressing the main challenges of industrial development and the structural transformation brought about by rapid economic growth, which has driven shifts in the focus of industrial policy. On the other hand, we need to focus on the interaction between the state and the sustainable structural change, which can be examined as from selective industrial policy to functional industrial policy in the development of China's auto industry. So China's market-oriented reforms have evolved through several stages, from decentralization and profit sharing to a planned commodity economy, then to a socialist market economy. Similarly, China's automotive industrial policy system has transformed, shifting from a mix of planned management and selective policies to a primarily selective industrial policy system, and finally to a system where selective policies are essential, with functional policies playing a supportive role. Overall, throughout this process, China's automotive industrial policy has increasingly emphasized the importance of the market mechanism. If we examine how political realities shape the auto industrial policy in China through the lens of modern political economy, we will consider a governance constraint, which is how state capacity affects implementation. So, two key dimensions of state capacity are relevant for industrial policy. Firstly, we will think about the bureaucratic capacity, which means the ability to execute the policies effectively with sufficient staff, resources, and technical knowledge. Industrial policies, especially in complex sectors like the automotive industry, require deep knowledge of markets and firms to be successful. So back to the last. Yeah, thank you very much. And secondly, we will think about embeddedness and informational capacity, which means the state's ability to interact with and gather information from the private sector is essential. So effective industrial policy requires continued negotiation with the market participants to understand real-world constraints, such as financing issues, land acquisition problems, and skill shortages. So this intersection ensures that policies are grounded in market realities and can adapt to unforeseen challenges. In China's case, between 1994 and 2001, the Chinese government gradually replaced the strict planned management with more flexible industrial policies. As firms become market-oriented, they retain the state guidance, but increasingly made decisions based on market signals. The flexibility of industrial policies allowed firms to adjust the strategies, fostering rapid growth, particularly in the automotive sector. However, in 2002, overcapacity emerged as a pressing issue in sectors like the automotive industry. In response, the government imposes strict controls on new investments and introduced the selective policies to curb reckless expansion. While these policies help to manage growth, they also lead to rent-seeking behavior and administrative monopolies, which hinder the efficiency and worsen overcapacity in some strategic sectors. Since 2012, China has focused on creating a favorable environment for emerging industries, including new energy vehicles, while continuing to rely on government intervention. So policies such as forced capacity reductions and production limits reflect ongoing direct market intervention. While the government aims to steer the industry toward high-tech sectors, over-reliance on such intervention may limit the market's ability to self-correct inefficiencies. So looking ahead, China's automotive industry faces three key challenges: productive efficiency, economies of scale, and overcapacity. In terms of productive efficiency, as China's automotive industry transitions into high-tech sectors, particularly new energy vehicles, maintaining productivity will depend on the balance between market forces and government intervention. Over-intervention stifle innovation and hinder the market's ability to efficiently allocate resources. Then, if we talk about the economies of scales, China's auto industry has benefited from economies of scale, especially through joint ventures. However, continued reliance on state-backed consolidation may create more zombie enterprises, large but inefficient firms, shielded from true competition. And last, when we talk about overcapacity, persistent overcapacity remains a risk, particularly in sectors heavily influenced by government policy. While efforts to cut overcapacity through selective industrial policies have helped, ongoing intervention may delay the necessary market corrections. Okay, so thank you for joining and listening my presentation. For question, yeah, question and comment.
Sorry. Congratulations for your new presentation. Very interesting. I would like to ask you actually regarding the you have comments about the phase of the stage of planning, state planning, economy, and now this market economy. And I'm interested to understand how do you see there's different phases and policies regarding the sector, and how important, what is the difference of those for the development of technology and the position of this provide, and how do you see the role of the state in this phase?
Okay, so thank you for your question. And yeah, so in China state, we will some problems about the such as I mentioned, the competition, some productive efficiency, some economies of scale and overcapacity, which is the main problems that so I mean the relationship between markets is a significant, plays a significant role in the development and transformation of the national. But we need to we need to discuss the positive and the negative effects of the role of the state in the development of such kind of sectors. I mean, the state may improve the development of auto industry in China during the marketization, but after we have an overdevelopment of the auto industry, but there are some problems that maybe the role of the state plays some limitation in the development of auto industry. But we are keep going on to solve this kind of problems as the process of sustainable structural change and the institutional change. Well, we are keep going to our reforms, opening and reforms during the process under the development and the transformation of the structural change. Yeah.
We have a question from the email, please. Michael Robert asks, do you think development process is about right, or should it be more market-oriented or more state-directed?
Okay. So thank you for your question. I think in the development and transformation of some industrial auto industries, the role of the state should be keep changing and continue to play a significant role during the development. It depends on the different stages of the development of auto industry, such as let's make an example. For example, I mean, at the start of the development of auto industry, I mean the traditional auto industry in China, the state plays a main role in the development of auto industry because it's emerging sectors in China as the auto industry at the start of the the development, but as the markets marketization keep continuing after our enter the WTO, such as I think the state should be back off from the marketization under the structural change as a sustainable development. So it depends on the different stages of development in auto industry. The state plays different roles under the sustainable structural change and the transformation for each stages.
Timeline of during the
Okay, so that's a good question. I think the industrial policies about China's auto industry should be divided from several parts. First, we will divide it into two stages. Firstly, the industrial policies in China of auto industry focused on the traditional autos. But at the second stage, after the Chinese government issued the Made in China 2025, I think the policy implementation should focus on new energy vehicles. This is the first summary, and the second, I think it depends on the role of the state in different stages of the auto industry, such as if the first stage, the state plays a significant role in the development of auto industry, especially the traditional auto industry. But at the new energy vehicle, the Chinese government lead to they make the more reforms and policy issues about the literal competition among the firms, different firms, because they need to make economies of scale and efficient productivity for the auto industry. So that's the second summary for the policy transformation of China's auto industry. Thank you.
For your presentation, very interesting. Well, I can see, yeah, you summarized the industry China has implemented. Well, I think you may need to further develop these. For example, are there some strengths or weaknesses about the Chinese industry policy? Have they been effectively implemented? Also, you mentioned overcapacity, productive efficiency, and
Economies of scale.
Scale of
overcapacity.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you can further develop these points? For example, scale of economy. You mentioned Chinese enterprise they join the ventures, but also there are 70 grants. More than 70 grand new electrical vehicle grants in China, owned by a few major automobile companies. So have they reached the scale of economy? Also overcapacity. Is overcapacity created by competition between businesses or by state and subsidy? I think this is also a good value.
Thank you for your questions. I think in my view, the development of a Chinese auto industry should be process of market oriented and the transformation of marketization. It keeps going on now, but as we need to focus on the role of the state in the development of different sectors, such as the Chinese auto industry. There are some state capacity constraints in the process of the development in auto industry, because as the marketization is keep going on, the state capacity should limit the development of auto firms to some extent, but we can improve the development from the perspectives such as the prohibited industrial policies, or make a more competitional market environment for the development of auto industry. Yeah, so that's yeah, so we can solve some problems that we are facing on the challenges such as overcapacity or the economies of scale. We can the state can place an important role to solve some problems that we are facing on to some extent. But you know, there's no market for the perfect yet. So thank you very much.
I think it would be useful, I believe, necessary to try to get an assessment of the evolving state market competition in relation to the actual development of the industry, and it is useful that you have a heading about that transformation in a certain environment. But then the traditional auto industry, that is the internal combustion engine industry, that was very certain, very stable. That the bigger one represented the domination by the multinational corporations in various ways, very stable in terms of economies of scale, in terms of overcapacity, in terms of productivity. All these were stable. And then you have an unstable, uncertain new situation with the new energy vehicles. So you might need to assess the state market competition, of course, has become evolving, and assess that in relation to the two different stages. One stage by stable, certain landscape of the industry, another by stable environments. And then, in terms of the certainty or uncertainty, stability, but then the three key concepts, productive efficiency, economies of scale, and overcapacity, you need to have more fundamental causes of these three things. But in the first place, it might be just kind of technical. And the direction and pace of technological change, say the battery power versus hydrogen power. That's what is ongoing. Japanese wants to go down the road of hydrogen power. China has been going on the path of battery power. So that might uncertainty. And then excess capacity might be caused not just by technology, but also by the economic environment, that the financialized investors has joined this industry by the so-called burning money. That's investing a lot with a view of creating a monopoly. So they are willing to put into enormous amounts of money and suffering from losses. I understand so far most of new vehicle, new energy vehicle companies are suffering from losses. They are willing to do so with a view of creating a future, just like with the various previous issues, share bicycles, the taxis, as well. Internet companies spending a lot of money suffering from losses. So that is economic, and in addition to technological, and then of course there is geopolitical. US and then EU, now all the others, Canada and so on, imposing restrictions on importing the electrical cars from China. So you need to go into the more fundamental causes of uncertainties, not just purely technicals. So I think that will help in terms of assessing first the industrial policy and the problem, the state market companies, whether they are effective and efficient or at the cost of yes.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments for the jury. So any other?
We have another question from the email audience. I can read it aloud. Michael Robert asks, is there overcapacity in the auto industry?
Okay. As we divided China's auto industry from two parts, the first is traditional auto industry, and the second is new energy vehicles. As the first stage of the auto industry development, I checked the data from national websites. The traditional the traditional auto industry is has been over capacity in the first stage. I mean, especially between the starting time of new energy vehicle development, but it's not. It's not the main. It's not the main point for the problems. But at the second stages, from 2015 until now, the new energy vehicles productivity is over capacity as well, because we have more firms which are focusing on the new energy vehicles productivity. So I think the problem of overcapacity is still continued in China's market. So any other question? Okay. Yeah. So okay. So thank you for your coming, and thank you for the great speaker's presentation. So now time's out. Yeah.
I have asked the organizers to see if we can change the group, but I'm waiting for the response.
I need an announcement.
Okay, great.
Regarding the problem, but first of all, sorry about the inconvenience. That was unforeseen. Apparently, the light bulb in the projector has died, so every 10 minutes we need to reopen. By the second session, so throughout the dinner, I will make sure that it is fixed. So if it's not fixed, I can arrange a different room, but I can assure that I'm going to solve this problem.
Okay.
So it will not be problem again. Sorry about it.
Thank you. So we can have a break now, and I think the second session. No, it's 11:45. 11:45. So it's in.
All right, we have half an hour.
Yeah, we have half an hour. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Sorry that we couldn't hear your voice, but let's see if we can fix this problem later on as well. Okay, we'll have a break and then we'll come back in half an hour. Thank you.